Big news from this week is I think the MSTR IPO of the STRC or Stretch preferred equity product. It is, I think, 5 times oversubscribed. It was launched, I think, John, is this right, at $500 million and ended up selling $2.5 billion on the IPO.
Yeah, so all of these debt or preferred stock or even equity instruments will have like an initial size that they intend to do. But then as they actually finalize with investors and say, okay, who's really interested in this thing, the final size will be determined. It is typical for deals to be oversubscribed and then launch with a bigger amount because the issuer typically wants that because it's way better for their signaling. You could just imagine like, oh, we started to want to do 500, but then we did 750. It's just way better for headlines and stuff. But even with that being kind of normal to upsize, I would say a 5x upsize from 500 million to 2.5 billion is way more than usual, especially for a unique instrument in an industry that a bunch of investors are still not even following. So I would say the upsizing to 2.5 billion is noteworthy.
And it is the largest IPO of 2025 to this point by quite a bit. So show the chart here. Largest preferred and common equity IPOs in the United States this year, $2.5 billion. The next closest was Venture Global IPO at $1.75 billion. So quite a difference there, standing out like a sore thumb at the top of this chart. What do you make of this, John? Like this just seems... We keep asking or wondering about, where is the demand like threshold? Like where is it going to be saturated for these products that the Bitcoin treasury companies are putting out into the market? And it seems that we're, based on this IPO, that we're not even close yet.
Yeah. And just a quick comment in that chart, it is interesting because it's looking at all the preferred and as the title says, preferred and common equity IPOs. You could see, if you're viewing this, you could see Circle in there. Circle is a $40 billion market cap company. What this is looking at is the new equity that they've raised. Even though they're 40 billion, it doesn't mean they've raised all 40 billion. They've raised, as this chart shows here, 1.2 billion. That's what Circle did. And so this is looking at the new capital that these instruments and companies have raised. And 2.5 billion happens to be a big number. And where I would kind of place this from the 30,000 foot view is if you look at all those different types of financial assets around the world, everything from real estate to bonds, but then you have to break up bonds into like longer term bonds and then cash like instruments to gold and fine art. And obviously we put Bitcoin in that layout. What MicroStrategy is doing is kind of looking into each one of those pockets of capital and financial asset types and saying, how can we entice those types of investors with those mandates to take some of their capital and invest it in a Bitcoin linked instrument that obviously the foundation is Bitcoin and MicroStrategy equity has to perform well, but they're coming up with these novel instruments to give people what I would call adjusted Bitcoin exposure. So like this STRC Stretch is giving, it's a money market like instrument that pays a much more attractive coupon, which fluctuates. That's what money market instruments do, of course. But the success of this is linked to MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. So it's giving that adjusted Bitcoin exposure to different investors. And this is MicroStrategy's latest foray.
And it's a product that might be like more useful to a broader audience, not just institutions. This is a preferred equity that yields 9% annual dividend paid monthly, which is twice as much as a money market account would pay out at about 4.5% right now. And it's engineered to stick around $100 in price. So you shouldn't have to worry about much capital gains when you do take the money back out of Stretch. So in that sense, it sort of does compete against a money market type of account where you kind of park some money for short duration, medium duration to earn yield.
And according to Grok, it looks like just in 2025, first half of the year, There's $7 trillion parked in money market accounts.
How many or how much?
7 trillion.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah,
it's a lot of money. The earnings call yesterday was pretty awesome. It's just fascinating to see what they're engineering now with the yield curve. And this is the stretch product is now sort of on the left side of the yield curve, short duration. And then the other three preferreds are a little further down on the yield curve. There's like a nice sweet spot between stretch and the other three where we might see other products targets. I remember Saylor yesterday talking about the different pools of capital that these products are targeting. And they're all in the trillions. And so finding ways to take fiat out of all of these pools and turning it into Bitcoin, it's quite the strategy, you might say.
I have another thing to add there, but Alex, did you have something?
Well, I was going to say is that these things, I think, have MSTR has got a pretty big advantage, I think, in the market because they've had a lot of attention on them for all the other products that they've done. The fact that just MSTR is just absolutely destroying pretty much every stock in the S&P 500 in terms of performance. So there's a lot of eyes on MSTR. So that's a huge advantage for them. But also, just in the last probably 2 weeks, I've had conversations with two different people who, one guy had something like $3 million in money market funds, just cash, earning something like 4%. And he's like, this doesn't make any sense. I could just put it into one of these preferreds from MSTR and get 8% plus. That's kind of a no-brainer. And then another person I just talked to this morning was saying this guy runs a treasury for a company and they're sitting on 8 digits in cash. And they're being encouraged by their current bank to wrap that into products. They're going to pay like maybe 3% and lock it up for 6 months. He's like, that doesn't make any sense with these new products on the market. Why would we do that? We should just put it in here. So this is definitely having an impact. People are definitely noticing. And when you get double the amount of yield out of a product and it's highly collateralized from the bottom up, this is getting people's attention. There's no doubt about it.
Totally.
Sure.
I have many clients who are retired who this is super important for. And so they're definitely looking at this very closely.
For sure. We get tons of client inquiries about MicroStrategy, the Bitcoin treasury company trend, all these new securities. So it's something we're talking about a lot. And one additional thing I just wanted to highlight was that Lynn Alden and a few other Bitcoin analysts and content creators were actually on the earnings call yesterday with Saylor and the strategy team. And a couple of interesting takeaways from Lynn that I saw she posted, I guess she posted it last night, was I didn't tune in live, but Lynn must have asked a question about stress tests.
Yep.
And Saylor's answer was basically that the preferred dividends, so all those STRF and then the 4 different versions, Saylor said they would expect those preferred dividends to be pretty safe with an up to 80% Bitcoin drawdown. And she actually ended up just quoting his exact response. It was, I think our structure is smooth and we wouldn't miss a single dividend payment on an 80% drawdown. On a 90 to 95% drawdown, in theory, you might suspend something for a little bit of time, but you'd eventually get back current on it. So that's pretty remarkable. I mean, this is not just like, Bitcoin crashes to 113K like it is now. None of these coupons are at risk of not being paid. It takes a really extended, extreme bear case to break this model.
Yeah, and that's why they call it responsible leverage. It's these products are extremely over collateralized. Check out BTC in DC. This event is going to be happening not too long from now, September 30th and October 1st at the Kennedy Center, an absolutely historic venue. So it'll be pretty amazing. Great group of speakers. Michael Saylor will be there, Natalie Brunell, Jack Mallers, Jeff Booth, Adam Back, Cynthia Lummis, Tur Demeester, Corey Clipston, Samson Mao, Warren Davidson, Pierre Rochard, Tom Emmer, Parker Lewis, list goes on. Great speakers. And it's going to be an absolutely fantastic event in DC, right next to the Watergate Hotel. A bunch of side stuff happening. The new pub key will be opening that weekend as well, so you'll be able to check that out. And then one last shout out to Mara for helping secure the Bitcoin network. As we talked about them a couple of times in this episode, they hold 50,000 Bitcoin in their treasury, and they are the biggest publicly traded miner in the world. Thanks for supporting the show and for securing our stash. We appreciate you. All right, that's it for this week. Take care, everyone.